So in the previous video I showed how I built the latest seed version for longarc64 for Debian, which was still Trixie number 13, and I explained why it is like this even though Debian came out last week. And I also showed that when I built for riscv5, then the unstable version that I built, and I ended the video by building also seed, which is the same. I just want to illustrate some caching concept. Would be Debian 14, that is a forky. So when I think about it, I probably should have started this introduction in the previous video, and probably the previous video should have been after this one, but I already recorded it, so let's proceed. So if we go to wiki.debian.org, we can see, hey, this is like the latest release, and there are all kind of things like that. So the mainstream Debian, that is supported, that the architecture has been well supported, well tested, well graduated to, would be under the normal FTP or with debian.org. And there is also something else that is known as the Debian ports. So Debian ports, this is some news page where it says, okay, this is actually interesting. riscv64 architecture has been added to the official archive a few months ago. Given most of the packages have now been rebuilt, it has just been removed from the Debian ports archive. So I mentioned in the previous video that like in ports you will have some things that are either have been phased out of the main archive or something that has still not found its way there. So riscv5 is stable. This is why it's in the main archive. This is why when I just built unstable or seed, which is where I'm going to start our first real engineering thing, terminal thing, this will point to forky, okay, seed or unstable. So last video I built unstable. Now each one of them, when I say built, I'm using the same kernel, the same RAM disk. I'm only talking about like the bootstrapping of the root file system. So the bootstrapping would come from an FTP, and in Debian, if I go here to the FTP debian.org Debian dist, then we have the different list of released for the supported architectures wherever they are supported. So I talked about it in 2024 in the Embedded Linux conference, the Embedded Open Source Summit in Seattle. I talked quite a lot about the bootstrapping, about like the different versions and so on. It's on YouTube, it's on my YouTube channel as well as on the Linux Foundation. So I will not get into it too much, but I just want to tell you that this is the latest one and this is the date. Today is like August 18, 2025, and Debian 13 came out on this date. So I could, instead of going like to Debian 13 or to Trixie, I can just go to stable, it doesn't matter. And over there, if I want to see what architecture is supported, I can of course read like on the website, like I just on the wiki, but essentially you have like the binaries and the contents, and the moment you have like the contents, the tarbles, these are the architecture that's supported. So we can see here riscv64 is there, ARM64, ARM EL NHF 30x of course 64-bit, but also like 34 also 32-bit in the architecture, and so on. Now for the other ones, for these ports that's still not been graduated like to be mainline architecture or has been phased out, it's the same thing, only here is like FTP ports debian.org, and here I just went to experimental, showed something, but what we saw in the previous one was seed or unstable, like I built for longarc64 the unstable. And this is where I have it, okay? So we can see that it was last modified today, so it seems, for example, the longarc. So it could be that one small package was added and the image that I've had would not be the same. So it's like rolling, it gets updated, and it also happens like with a stable. So this is why I started talking about the caches all the time in the previous video. So now I'm going to take one step further. We already built like riscv5. It's not on a seed. A year ago it was, it was not on Debian port. A year ago it was on Debian port. And if I go back to my code, then we ended the last video showing Firefox, being happy with ourselves, having installed, and then I took the same building configuration and I built the seed instead of unstable. Now here comes something that is interesting in reusing distros, or like in deciding which version to use, or what is the caching strategy, or how to work in general. The thing is that if I already have a system and I go and do CI/CD, and then I take code from upstream, that is, I don't cache it there, and I clean everything to avoid all kind of clashes, then maybe the next time I will get a version that is not even what all of my customers have been using. So that is very bad in some cases. So for this, there is a motivation to always know what you're working against and to do like reproducible builds. Now let's say that you have it and you don't clean everything up, or you don't like work against the exact same cache, or you say, okay, I'm feeling brave, or I know what I'm doing, or I just don't care, and I'm going to want to update like the caches, or only update like the root file system that I have, and do all kind of things. Like this can be done, by the way, it's the exact same mechanism of when you do like apt get update. Same thing, it doesn't matter if you do it before building or after. It doesn't matter if like you did the bootstrap to this version now or not, because the sources come from these FTPs that I mentioned, that I showed. Well, now I will show like on the stable, on the main one, so I'll do it like here, okay? So basically, this is what I've been done, and now I said that I'm showing the main one, I didn't mean the stable. Now what I'm going to do is again go ahead and use like I did riscv on unstable. Unstable is seed, but because I put the caches in other folders, then this is an opportunity for me, a good opportunity for me to show you what happens when there is a reusal. And with this, we can also learn about the PscgBuildOS caches, although I think we need several lectures for that in order for the video not to be like very long. So let's get to it. So I started building again seed with architecture riscv. I welcome you, that's fine. You can forget about the BSP and so on and so forth. And maybe some of the paths will change when you work with it yourself, maybe not. But some of like the idea is that we have all kind of caches dirs. So we'll get to it a little bit later. Okay, let me go ahead. I'll write some side notes for myself. Now I have multiple screens, so I'll take it to another screen. How convenient. And are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Why not? We have this nice thing. Expected the bootstrap fingerprint and recreate the bootstrap cache on matching fingerprints. I remind you, this is a build system that I built completely myself, like from scratch, okay? So it doesn't mean I remember everything, but I know everything for sure. But how people tell this about me also, like about the Linux kernel, about the Yocto, about Android, about everything. I know where to find stuff. In this case, it's the stuff that I wrote. So this unmatching fingerprint thing is that in each one of like those caches directory, I put like a fingerprint that if somebody either asked for a specific fingerprint, let's say foobar blah blah blah, you detect, it doesn't matter. Usually I put dates to not be as complex as the Yocto project caching system, which is state cache and the way of managing it, which is super clever and of course significantly harder to explain. So instead of doing something like that, I just put like files under /opt dot deb caches something, I don't remember the exact name. And when doing the bootstrap, then I will consult with those caches. So I will both show you how they look and look like at the file. I just have millions of terminals open. So we have like these two nice variables here that we can use to also either specify a specific fingerprint that if it doesn't exist in the caches or in the resulting the bootstrapped file system, then we'll rebuild the caches and then update them. And the caches are what you'd get when you do apt-get update. And the system that I've done works that the objective is like to work completely offline. So if I travel, if I fly, and I need to do some work or research something, I don't need internet. And the idea is that I would get the caches before. when it's on the root file system, if I use like apt like on Debian, and there are also other systems that PscgBuildOS supports, and not just Debian, then I would do an apt-get download download dash only. So this is how I build like the caches, and theoretically I could go get everything under the FTP, including everything, and then have my own mirror and so on. But this is never my objective. I have limited disk space, right? Even though I have 4 terabytes here. Okay, so this is about the root file system and about Debian and celebrating like the new Debian stable release. And here we build RISC-V with SID, which is the next release. So the stable one is Trixie, Debian 13. Here we build Debian 14, which is Forky, which is the unstable one. It will come out in some time. So here I just go like to the rootfs phases, forget about the installer and so on, forget about the kernel, forget about links. Okay, rootfs prepass, this is an important one. So what I do here, the bootstrap a root file system, okay, and I check if I already have something on this file. So let's see that. I already have like a root file system, okay. By the way, now I did the build already, okay, and it stopped in an important place, so we'll get to that, all right. So this is one thing that we check. We see that it was already done. Why we see that? Because on my system I put here under opt the bootstrap done, okay, and when it was done, August 3rd, which is definitely before SID became Forky. So it's interesting. Now, so it was not touched. Let's look at this file that I told you also, dab caches fingerprint. The fingerprint is different. Look what happened here because I already ran it. It's on August 18, which is definitely after. So my base version is from 2 weeks prior to that. And here, if the bootstrap change, basically the effects are like what happened if I did like an apt-get update on this release prior or after, prior to like installing packages. So just to connect us to this world, and in Debian 13, the new APT system where you don't need the list, when you can like modernize sources, this has been in Ubuntu for a while. It first came out, okay? So what I'm going to do is look at ATC apt. I'm not sure if it's modernized or not, okay? Let's look at the sources list here. Debian SID. It means that like if I do apt update, and this also applies if you have something stable and the sources change. So this is like the change of like the bootstrap did not change because I just copied it like once. But on the other hand, other things change. I do apt-get update, but where? So let's see where, because I told you there's a caching system that I just want to do everything offline and so on. So we have the bootstrap already done, which is nice. And now I say, okay, let's see what's going on in state instruction dir. Do I want to have any different things or any different like configurations? So we check here, and it tells me here that there is no fingerprint detected, okay? But look where. So we have no fingerprint detected. This is where I make like these deb caches, okay? This is where it means that before this file did not exist there for whatever reason, okay? Excellent. In other words, I have not touched it like in a while, or just did the local bootstrap. This is cache instruction. I already mentioned. We can say if I write to here, invalidate caches, then it would invalidate all caches, but if all are good, it just checks what's going on. So look what we do here. We look the existing dap caches in this version, okay? And it looks here, it says, okay, populating from caches, so it updates the caches. And then it looks for the fingerprints. The first one was like at the bootstrap, so run, PscgBuildOS, and so on and so forth. riscv, dap caches, SID. So let's have a quick look at this folder now. So this particular folder is 1.4 gigs. Now, why is it like it? So the answer must be packages, and I will go and look at var caches or lib caches. Yeah. So look at this. A lot of packages, a lot of packages, right? This is why it takes so much disk space. 1.2 gigs. And the last time I checked, 1.2 gigs there. Okay, there are also other caches. I talked all about it in 2024 in Seattle conference. So this is as per like those caches, all right? And it says, okay, need to update cache. So here I go ahead and look where I look at. The previous one was caches dir that just has a cache. It's not a full file system. It's not a full file system. Look at it. ATC, OPT, var, all right? And OPT, all we have is like the dap cache's fingerprint. And after I built, it matches the one that I had like before. So what do we have here? This was the work dir, and now I will look at dap cache's risk without like the work dir. Sorry, this was without it, and now I'll look at the work dir. So the work dir has a different file name convention, and it says work dir the bootstrap plus caches, which pretty much means what it is. The other one, as opposed to it, was just dap caches and like the name of this. So what I'm going to do now is look at this file, this friend here, okay? Look at the different paths. Let's just start with looking at the sizes. DU, not sudo. And it's 1.5 gigs, okay? So it's one more, so it probably doesn't have a lot more things. It has the root file system itself that is at the bootstrap, okay? And adding to it like the caches. So why do I say work dir? Because in order to do APT, you need to chroot to the bootstrap. So the caches come for the previous one, for the caches work dir, they come from the work dir, the bootstrap plus caches. We just copy the other folders and that's it. And you can see it like in the build system code. You can go over it. I probably will go over it, but it really depends. Okay, so this is not what I want to show, but if I go there, okay, I will see I want to look here. In OPT, I can see the bootstrap done, and we can see it's from August 3. So something that we can learn is that when we work on our rootfs and like my system, we take the bootstrap and caches, create like a root file system from it. We keep the caches outside so we can like reproduce them separately. And from this, we can devise like a new the bootstrap, regardless of the caches, get caches, do separations, and so on. Now, the contents here would be this date, like what we saw in the beginning. I think we had it here. Sun.org, this is like, this was the root file system. It's under the installables, the ext4 images, and then like the system and so on and so forth. The reason for it is that I want to support same caches, different distros when I can. And if I just want to make something after that the bootstrap is done, everything being populated and just work on the root file system, I don't want to affect the caches if I want to reuse them like for another project. So that's the rationale behind it. But we have these dates, okay? 251 and 217 for August 18. And for the other ones, so we have 251 and in opt deb caches, surprise for surprise, we have 217. So they all share everything. And if I specified a fingerprint by giving the other one like expected the bootstrap fingerprint, then essentially I could go and specify it before I create like everything. And there is another place like to specify the string for fingerprint. And if the fingerprints do not match, then I say no game, we're not into it anymore. So it's very important. Like instead of doing like the apt update and all these kind of things, I work against my own caches. I also have a mode that enables it to work completely online, and this is not how I do the reproducible build here. So we discussed it. So now let's go back to building. So it skips the bootstrap as it was done. It checks for existing deb caches. There were no fingerprints, so it populated them. And now it updates the caches from the work tier. So look what it does here. So it took like the caches from the bootstrap here, okay? And essentially look at the different phrases that we have. So it wants to get the caches, all good, all nice, but we're going to update the caches in the work tier as well. So we have here, I did not get all the packages in the world. I just got the packages I'm interested in. And if they all exist, then perhaps I don't need anything. But I do need to update the caches because that's what I decided. And on the caches work tier, I will have an apt get update. It's not on my target, it's when I prepare it. So here, the moment I ran it, that is today, like a couple of hours ago, if the upstream changed, like SID, from the previous time I ran it, then it's new packages, and then I need to start thinking of what happens if there are conflicts. Now conflicts can be if some package has some dependencies, and conflict can also be if a configuration file changes. So this is a very strong motivation to know exactly what you're building. I'm not saying you need to do reproducible builds all the time, but if you do not do a reproducible build will have like all the caches filled and everything's fine, then it's better for you to restart from scratch. Okay? And in my system, the way to do a reproducible build, actually for the entire Debian, just download all the packages and entire mirror, populate the cache once with that mirror, and then always work against it, never go online, and that's it. And your builds will be reproducible for all alternatives. For the kernel, I also have like the same mechanism for RAM disk as well, because I just use like the source, the commit, and like that's it. So what we have here is that we update the caches, and this takes some time. It just does update, and we also do like the install with the flags, and the flags here would be download only, and we can see that it would take from the FTP or from HTTP, depends like on the source list, riscv, seed main, and once it's done that, then look what's going on. So the build cache says, okay, new deb cache fingerprint, this is the date that we saw. It updated the caches on the working directory, okay? And it copies from the working directory to the caches there. So this is the working directory. This is where we had like our apt-get update, and then apt-get install -- download only, and we copy the caches from the work dir to the caches dir, and from there we copy the caches only from the working dir, from the caches dir to the rootfs, which is this one. Now, why do I do it? What is the motivation for it? Why do I need to copy like only caches? So the answer for it is that when I deploy on a target, you saw that there could be 1.2 gigs of Debian files. I don't want it on embedded systems, so I would opt to clean the caches. Okay? It's important. And then, yes, you can clean just some of them. I explained about it, like in Seattle, you can just have the lists. So it would be maybe some tens of megabytes, but maybe 100 megabytes, but not 1.2 gigabytes if you don't do the downloads themselves. And if you have the lists, it will go to the internet for that. If you don't have the list, then apt-get update will like update the list, and only the install will like get the packages. So the reason for separating the working dir from the caches is to enable you to remove caches from your root file system before packing it to an ext4 or any other image format of your choice. So that's what we've been doing here. Now kernel, well, the kernel was already built because it's shared between the different architectures, the different products. And the products were unstable and seed, which are the same, but because the root file system had different folders, I treated it differently, okay? So the kernel is not the topic here. initramfs is also shared, and it's also not the topic here. And what is the topic here is the rootfs. And look what we have here. We have all kind of like scripts that do installation. These are the recipes, just like in Yocto and BuildRoot and other things. Now the recipes, they will do apt-get install. And here we want to install systemd. And I remember, and look what's happening here. So we have what was already installed in the rootfs. Remember that we had the bootstrap. It was already here. The bootstrap that was down there, okay? August 3rd. So it was there. And the packages are different. And it was definitely Debian 13 back then. There's no even question about it. Now if we ask it what it thinks about itself right now, it is Debian 13 in the etc systemd. We did not finish like our update yet. We did not do it yet. So let's go ahead and ask what it thinks. It's a matter of configuration. And first of all, with every time you have conflicts in apt, you can resolve it without user interaction. But I wanted that if somebody has changes, that they will be noticeable. If they're noticeable and you're not sure what to do and you want something new, delete everything and start again. I mean, delete this particular root file system. Okay? I can of course give the right apt flags to take care of that. So what we have here is okay, configuration file, change. Would you like to install the package maintainer version or keep your currently installed version? Currently installed version is Debian when it was seed, when it was still 13. Now I want it to be like 14, the latest one. So I'll just say yes, and that's it. I can just see also like the differences or start a shell to examine the situation. Let's show the differences, why not? So these are the differences. I mean, we shouldn't care about them at all in general, and I will just say yes to everything, and that's it. Okay? There's no big deal about it, but we can see what are like the dates according like to the packages here. So we have like 12 of August, 25 of June, probably when I build some stuff. So I'll just say yes. And now we have again about the network. Let's see if something is changed there. Well, here it actually is possible that I made some changes. But even if I did, if I made a script that needs to account for that, it will do the changes again. So I don't care. So I'll just do yes for everything and that's it. That's what I'm going to do. Okay? So I did it for a couple of them. And now we have a problem. Now we have like, hey, something here didn't work as much as you expected, cannot open, one of the packages needs to open like a etc machine ID, it cannot do it, what's going on, it's not so nice of you, why this, why that, what's up? So if you run into this kind of things, well, it can be several things. First of all, it tells us like etc machine ID is neither writable or near or read only mode. So we can go ahead and observe it. But what we usually do is just remove the root file system altogether, and that's it. So let's see what it tells us about this. It is readable, okay? It's definitely readable. What does it tell us? Yeah, so it's basically not writable. It's true, something here got messed during configure. We can go ahead and try and like change it to writable, but you will do it in per package rule. Like if you actually need it, you will per system. I have like the recipes. I will show. I showed some of them in the past, but I will probably show more, and I definitely show in my trainings, as a lot of the demos are based on that. But what you want to do in this case is just go ahead and say, okay, I got my new caches, I'm happy about them, and there is a problem. If there isn't anything that I need, then I get rid of it, and that's it. I have a lot of reasons not to do it, because a lot of time I just want to repackage things very quickly, do local changes, and either flash them on real devices or work with them in a QEMU. So I'm going to say thank you for your services, it's been a nice run, and I'm going to just remove it. So I removed it, and now it's supposed to, okay, so checking for existing the bootstrap status. In the previous time it says that there is the bootstrap. Now there is no. So I called do fetch, do unpack. I made it up. Yes, of course I'm influenced by the Octo project. I've been working on it for ages. But basically I do like this fetch. Okay. This is where I took things, and look at it. We have both like if I go to this directory, this is like another place of caches. I forgot like to mention it. The bootstrapping that I have. So it's the bootstrap, the caches, and then there is the bootstrap rules caches. So I look at this fellow here, and let's look at it. Like if I go here and look at the bootstrap done, it's August 3rd. So it's not good for me if things change, because I can fail on the exact same place as before. Okay, so here is where somebody needs to know more about the system and try like to configure them, because one could say, okay, no problem, I'll just remove everything and that's it. If I look at it and look at like where it failed, and by the way, a lot of times it will fail because systemd wants to do configure tasks on a system that is actually running, or all kind of tools can be like that as well. So here we don't have like the machine ID on the first one, so it will be populated on the first time by systemd. So on this it should not fail. But honestly, I didn't even like look at it, so I don't know. But let's see. So yeah, we definitely passed that phase, and it will do all kind of things. It installs this, installs that. We will wait a little bit. You know what? I will just pause because it can take a while. And after that, as you can probably imagine, we will explore the status of the root file system and then get rid of the bootstrap. See how with the bootstrap thing again, and how like we actually change a system. So caches are caches, the bootstrap is the bootstrap. The downloads themselves, they have nothing to do, like of the caches, with the rest of the system. So you can just update, let's say you add a Debian 10, or even Ubuntu, whatever, 2204, 24.04. You change completely the apt sources list. You do apt get install dash download only. You get your caches. Even if when you install it, it will be like a catastrophe and nothing will work and everything will be with collisions. So I'm pausing it because it does take time. It installs a lot of things because the graphical system. And in addition to it, it's on a cross-development environment. So it just takes time. And I explained what I wanted to explain now. So I'll pause it and I will resume when it's done. At least when the root file system is done. And I think just like in other videos, by the time I decide to pause it, it will be like almost done. So let's see what I have here. Yeah, I'll pause it anyway. So of course it was fast, relatively. That's why I made the system like this. Remember, it's a lot of packages and it's like cross the bootstrapping. It's cross installing things under its root. So let's look at the root file system. I'll try to not erase it now. And if I look at opt, system opt, dab caches, fingerprints, well, it's the same because we already added like caches. And if I look at that, the bootstrap done, it's the same date. So what I can expect if I look at the etc OS release here is to be Debian 13, because these things come from the bootstrap. So what do I do if I want to work on the latest one? I can delete everything, as I mentioned, and I can go one level up, because I already mentioned that, speaking of the caches themselves, it has less the distro itself doesn't matter if I just want to update caches. So this is like the caches worked here. And here we have the bootstrap plus caches, which is not what I want. I want to go to caches. So I'm being very cautious here, okay? This is the bootstrap that I have. And you know what? It's a good opportunity to show you great, amazing. I mean, you can ignore like the errors. So it's an opportunity to show you like the different versions. So I wanted version code name probably, like in a different one. So this is what I just installed, okay? And this is like for a riscv Plucky is 2504, that's Ubuntu. And in seed, this is what I have here. And actually, why don't I see the unstable one? I should see unstable as well. Oh, I just didn't have it there. Interesting. So it points to user libOS release. So it was not, they just didn't show it, which is fine. It's interesting to see what there was like on the root file system itself of the unstable. So let's see that. Yeah, okay. So this could have been like in one of like so the symbolic link was installed, and maybe it was in one of like the packages, or like in the bootstrap, or like who knows where. Okay, so it's actually a question I've never asked myself, but let's have a look at what I wanted to do. So what I wanted to do is get rid of the bootstrap here, of riscv min base seed, not of the dep caches, of the bootstrap. Yeah. Okay. And now I will redo the process. So I do want to get rid of the root file system. By the way, there is a flag of like a redo from scratch that does like all of this for you, and does like the decision. I just wanted to explain how things work and some considerations. So this was the ext4 image. Being cautious here. And I'm going to rebuild. So it's checking for existing the bootstrap, and it does not find it. So it will do fetch. But now there is no fingerprint on the bootstrap directory. I could just invalidate cache there as well, by the way. But I chose like just to delete it. And here it will the bootstrap for the very first time. And actually by the apt package version, I can tell that it's going to be 14, which is fine. So on this setup, we did look either when I did the stable, the unstable, or when I did the long arc64 on the previous video. I'm not sure. And right now I'm mostly thinking of like, wow, it would be so nice if somebody else like wrote a description of these videos. They are important to, I mean, I think they could be so useful for people who haven't gone to my trainings, but I refer to them for my training, so I don't see the need. It's not that I have 5,000 followers and I work in it. I don't see the need in working obsessively in YouTube. So if you watch this and want to, like, you know, write all kind of descriptions before I do, by all means, please do. So it's still the bootstrapping. It will take some time. That's fine. I will pause it soon, but let's see if we can look at something nice here. So I will, yeah, so okay, so it's already either finished or very close to finished. So it's finished, okay? I wanted to show like the interim states, and if you look at this one, you can see that it is forky, all right? So it means it definitely came from the bootstrap. I am not sure why in the unstable it didn't show it. It's very weird. So let's just look. So this is the bootstrap is done. August 18. Bootstrap. Basically unstable. Let's cut here. Let's see OS release. Yeah, so there is a chance that I would, hold on. I actually don't know what happened before when I did the finding, but we have time upon installation, so let's see. Ah, of course. I looked at the wrong folder. This is why I didn't have it. I did find on everything, not on the bootstrap ones. Yeah, so it makes sense. So why was the problem? Because there was like etc, and I just copied the entire etc because it's small. through the caches, and that's it. This, I could be more selective and just do etc apt and the package, but I said, okay, let's not forget anything. Yeah, so this is like the rootfs. We already did the bootstrap. We have the caches, so now we need to wait until the packages are installed. So like before, I will pause. And it's good, even when I don't understand what's going on, because I just read the wrong thing. It all makes sense. This is why I put all the emphasis on understanding. This is how I work. Understanding is important. You can solve any problem when you understand the domain. So I'll pause now, and I'll resume soon. Okay, so a couple of minutes after, like we finished with everything. By the way, now it's 6.17 RC1, but I don't want to, I'm reusing the same kernel caches, so like I don't want to done with that. I haven't built an educational example, right? Yeah, so that's what we have. Here it's Firefox CSR, so on the long arc it was the other Firefox. Soon enough we'll have like the CD here. Yeah, so the images here are like pretty big. So for riscv, it uses over 6 gig. It's pretty crazy. I mean, I always give a little bit of extra for file system metadata, but it's still pretty big. Okay. Just checking something. Yeah, okay. That has nothing to do with the build system, that has to do with my computer. So soon enough we'll be done with that as well. And it seems like we are on the way there. I don't really need it, I can use another storage device, but there are so many options here and I have a system that works, so I'm just using it. When I actually hack on things myself, I reuse almost everything and I save like a lot of time. This is why I can do some things maybe in tenths of the time that other people can. At least sometimes. At least still. Alright, so let's do this. No, just for fun. I'll get rid of the installer, whatever. I will run. That was, see, that's what I had. Don't worry about it, it's because I did not need installer only. Essentially what I put here is a way to check like if we can do like A/B update and so on, but I think I need to fix something on riscv, and maybe this was what I need to do. I actually don't think so. Maybe I had a bug in something that I just did. So I'll just do it install A only. I'm not sure why, but, and it's not like part of what, I only care about the rootfs for this one. I'm not sure why, but in the riscv port that I have, I saw like the amazing like audio thing, then some of my features, oh, of course I know why, because I tested everything with other terminal parameters. Got it. Okay, so the so-called problem that I had, here I didn't open like VTs, and I did deliberately. is, okay, great. So I found a new bug here, and it will be fixed like in a second probably. The thing is that when I noticed that like I added some feature like to play sound, as I mentioned like in the previous video, as you could hear in the previous video. So I also added notifications like the PSP notifications while flashing to play some audios. So the way I did it was essentially by taking, and I can like just show you essentially. So this might change, by the way. Yeah. So essentially what I did is I put like a server here. Server. Of course, everything that has to do with audio, don't do like it. But I just send like if it, for the initialization of a playback, I have like a loop that reads from a FIFO. Okay, so that's like what I have. And when I want to like play sound, then I just enqueue to this FIFO. So if I look at the functions, and by the way, I think it did finish doing it already. PSP functions. Yeah, so I have the server, it just waits here and reads like from a FIFO. And the playing of sounds, I just enqueued it one by one, so it's possible that the FIFO gets blocked, although I'm not sure why it would happen. Maybe it would happen if because I killed the server before, it's probably something like that. So it's not a big deal. It's something that I can get rid of easily. I also showed recording, but not here because it's like not necessary. And I'm pretty sure the install is done, so let's see what's up. Yeah, so it is. So I'll fix like this bug exactly where I showed you like in a second. I'll just do an ampersand because it's just for demonstration, and that's it. Of course, I work with audio and do some other thing. So now I will not wait for the removable media. I will run it. It will be Debian 14, 4-key, seed, as you can expect, and Weston will come up there and Firefox will come up there, and it's very likely that it will be a smart idea to edit a service so that it will run Firefox and not Firefox CSR, or that it will run Chrome, or who knows what. Okay, it's not a big deal, all is good. And I also have like a console, the hypervisor console, which is also nice. And that sums it up. I mean, so in this video we talked about like the caches, we talked about reproducible flows. Here I run with overlay, so we have like everything here. We can do like an OTA update, I can show it later. Here we have our Weston, which is nice. Here we have Firefox CSR, which might be a little less nice, but it didn't open yet, so we don't know. Here I can see the resolution is higher than before, by the way. Yeah, now we have more PID. Let's see if we have the regular Firefox. And let's give it another shot. So let's see, Weston, system. So when you have like a package manager version, it will go, the system administration version, it will go like here. I just put here to keep it like consistent. So it runs Firefox, but Firefox here is Firefox CSR, so I need to select the Firefox package and not it. Here this time I will not run it like this, and I'll say again, like before, youtube.com, run units, and I'll do system. Yeah, as expected, system control. I mean, I need to do daemon reload, but I'll just show you what happens if I don't. It'll just give a warning. Restart Weston, and of course I need to do system control. That's the warning in yellow. I don't even read it, I know what it is. Daemon reload, and then I'll do restart. And then let's see how slow it is. I forgot if I did it. Yeah, I think I did a video demonstration before with a long ArcScg64. Let's see who performs better, huh? What do you say? So, although there it was still tricksy. It really doesn't matter. It's about like the hardware emulation, the QEMU, the Virtuio drivers, and so on. So I want to restart Weston, and YouTube will be opened soon. Don't know if soon enough or not. I think that it should work, but here's the thing. It's unstable. I don't even know what's going on like on the packages. I mean, maybe the best thing to do would be to just install Chrome, but it seems to be like a kiosk problem now. I actually think that in the previous video that's also what I showed. Thank you for showing the tabs for the privacy. I appreciate it. It's very nice of you. By the way, one of the nice things in that, I mean, of course, I know there are containerization, application installation, and so on, and Flatpak, and so on. But these are not the objectives in these videos. Now, one of the nice things in Debian, when you don't need to consider all of them because they bloat everything, you need to be very well aware of that. And I'm all about optimization. One of the nice things in Debian compared to Ubuntu is that you can install like Chromium and Firefox without needing Snap. Now, Snap is not a bad thing. I don't like it because it takes like a lot of looped up devices and so on, but essentially it's not a bad thing. But the bootstrapping and making Snap work in the bootstrap is extra effort. So this is why for a lot of things it's easier to work as an embedded engineer with Debian on the target. And if you need to, well, also in Seattle I've worked with Ubuntu. I've been using Ubuntu for over a decade. So that's, as you can see, that's the system that I'm using now. Let's see that I'm not lying. Of course I'm not lying. I never do. So yeah. Okay, so we will let it load. In the meantime, let's just for fun, I'll install Chromium. Let's see if it's available here. It's seed, maybe it's not available. And I will say, oh, why is it so slow? And it will continue being slow, but I'll be patient about it. And since I posted the video before, I'll just pause it and resume it when it's ready, perhaps. Yeah, so look what's going on. This version does not have Chromium. So I need to go ahead, like seed does not have Chromium. Why? Because it's like an unstable version and some packages exist, some packages don't. Nobody packed Chromium here. Okay? Maybe I can install Firefox without ESR here. So you need to know what you're looking for. And yes, you can go ahead and also add the Google Chrome project to your Debian sources and run Google Chrome as well. So it's not something that is not achievable. Okay? I can also go here and download like the Debian package and install it, but it's slow and I don't think I will do it now. And I will pause it. Wow, it's almost an hour video. I will pause it and give the page the possibility to load and test its might, as they said, like in the very famous game. don't want to even think that some people don't know where it's coming from. So I will not say the name. So yeah, I mean, it's so unimportant, I just want to do it anyway. Look how slow it is. And now that I said something about it, it is willing to load. Hey, I know this guy. I know this company logo. I really think there is nice content here. I don't understand how there aren't like 1 million followers. So I'll click it, let's see how terrible the sound is, and with that let's just wrap it up and maybe not talk too much about like root file systems and caches and packages and all this in the 2 years or so until there is a new stable Debian version. I just like to be complete. I like to do things until the end. So I said let's compare, so I want to compare. So it was very slow, but sound seems to work a little bit better, but it's still terrible. But that's enough for me. So since this is taking forever, and I did say that I want to give a go at downloading Google Chrome, I know how to do it like from command line, but basically let's try to do one of the things that people like to joke about. They like to joke about it like with the Internet Explorer or Edge. What do they do first when they open like this? They download Google Chrome. So actually I do use Firefox, to be honest. I also use Chrome. I also have done a lot of like Chrome development when I think about it. So I know Chromium pretty well. But lately I've been using Firefox. So yeah, I mean, despite using Firefox, I will now use Firefox to download Chrome on my target. On my Western target, it's not as nice and easy as you would want, especially since it's very, very, very slow. Very slow. But we see this graphic here, and I can put my mouse over it, like we see like this blue. Look how slow it is. We see this, okay? It's been so challenging like to get to it. So there is still hope. Maybe not all hope is lost. So let's see if it put it in downloads again. Yeah, so good. Of course, you should not be running it with root and blah, 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 blah. But yeah. So let's see if it can just work. 114M. And if it doesn't work, well, we'll need to get other setup stuff and we won't do it. Again, I wanted to get Chromium, but from APT, like you'd usually expect, but it's still not on the unstable release on SID, so for riscv, so I'm not doing it. So let's do apt-get install Google Chrome. And I can just do the package, by the way. I didn't give it like a so let's see, select. Whoa, this is bad. So it got the wrong package. Maybe they don't have it like for riscv. Anyway, not the best of idea. So I will cut the video here You can see, of course, like the challenges in these kind of things. Interesting that Google Chrome did not understand that we're using RISC-V, but maybe they have like an if-else. Hey, if the architecture is ARC64, then I don't know, maybe even go to Mac Silicon directly, or if something like that, and otherwise just don't. I don't want to mess with it. I mean, I can show how to add the sources, but if you followed so far, you know it, and if people beg me to do it, I'll do it on another video, but for this I need people to watch and to come with requests, and for me to have time. So that's all. We covered here caches, reproducible builds, some Debian shenanigans, some debugging, why I want to keep note of what packages, what distro you want to have, different ways of cleaning up caches in PscgBuildOS, installer, riscv, difference between seed and unstable. There is no difference really. What happens when you build something 2 weeks ago and then packages change, distro change, things change. In distro change, we had something very significant. That seed was 13 and then it became like 14, but only for riscv. When we tested here riscv and long arc. So in riscv it happened, and on long arc it didn't happen. So yeah, you need to understand a lot of things. So things come from experience, and things come from listening to other people who got that experience for you. So that's all. And yeah, I mean, if you watch this and quite a lot of other videos, also about the graphics and so on, and you did go to my Seattle lecture in 2024, I think there are really good addendums to this lecture, and there is infinite amount of data for working with embedded Debian Ubuntu systems and embedded systems in general. And just getting the distro, you can start with it. It's very unlikely that this is where you're going to end. If you actually use things for production, you need to customize things. So yeah, so I hope that this has been useful. It has not been too short. Take care.